Today is a beautiful day for some bullish and bearish hopium. There is really strong cases for both sides of this mark coming into this week. However, I'll be giving my opinion at the end. And of course, you can decide whatever the hell you think about that as well. So we'll start it off with the bearish side here. I do think that there are several compelling things for the bearish side. We've been representing the bearish side a little bit more recently coming into the beginning of this week. We were planning for, hey, if there's going to be some downside, it probably starts around the, Monday, which is today, leading into the first week of May, which is coming up very soon, in fact. So first things first, I want to bring up the most controversial chart of all time. That of course is the moon chart right here. We did indeed fire off the bare moon, the blue moon, which typically does signal a downside segment in the market for the next couple of weeks. And if you just look at the past couple months here of history, you can see, well, it has generally worked out. This one over here producing, currently the low for this mega rally move. The one before that did indeed push Bitcoin to massively new lows on the actual moon, then rallied up. But, I would call that a win as well for some decent downside. And then, of course, this one over here effectively getting the top. This one over here failed. This one over here, I'd also say more or less failed. So it does need to be taken into context of the grand scheme of things. But and it's certainly not infallible, but whenever I see, one of these fire off and then I see several other pieces of confluence, that makes me, consider that, hey, probably a better time to be cautious more than not. And for a more, I guess, scientific way of looking at this rather than moons, because I know that really pisses some people off, which is actually fucking hilarious to me. Look, it's just numbers at the end of the day. We can do the same thing with the Fibonacci time extension here. And I'm anchoring this from the high to the low of the past cycle, and you can see that the extensions going onwards and forwards from them have generally aligned very closely, if not exactly, on major highs and major lows. What do I mean by that? Well, you can see these first couple iterations right here, getting the high for these two rallies pretty much perfectly. Again, these were actually around this time as well, April, May, June area. Of course, the 2 extension here did get the breakout. This one over here getting about the low. This one over here getting about the low as well from 1 bar prior, we'd say. This one over here getting about the high, a couple bars away from it. But again, in terms of timing, pretty fucking close. Do be aware that this is a 5-day time frame here. So, 5-day time frame, 2 bars is 10 days. So that still gives us like a week and a half margin of error. And then, of course, we are seeing the next Fibonacci time extension actually exactly on this bar. So this bar just started on Saturday for the 5-day time frame and will not end until we're on the first day of May. So again, a timing perspective, it's pretty close. It's not exact, but it is pretty close. And seeing as Bitcoin is rallying up into this one, I do have to assume that, the move is likely to be a pullback at, a minimum, because all of these have essentially led to a counter move from whatever direction it has approached it. So this one over here, a little bit more likely in that direction as well. On top of that, I want to go into some more, I guess, detailed technical or some more traditional technicals. And we can see over here on the daily for CME, Bitcoin is right around the 618 Fibonacci retracement. In fact, pretty much perfectly hitting that region on the top of Friday's rally. Or was this Friday? Yes, that was indeed Friday's rally. And also in alignment with the major swing high over here before the big breakdown. So I do look at this again as an area of interest. You're usually going to have at least some sort of interaction, opposite interaction whenever you hit a major level like that. And it's basically there right now. On top of that, we can also see that daily stochastic momentum is getting up really fucking deep into the bullish control zone. Overall, that is a good, strong bullish momentum signal. But of course, if and when it does turn down, that does open up the doors for a bit of a pullback. To put the things into perspective, the last time that Bitcoin saw stochastic momentum levels this high was actually back in November of 2024. Things did go into a short-term correction from there and did move higher after that. So again, it's not like a bearish signal to cross down in a region like this. It's actually quite bullish, but you can get a decent pullback in between there. This one currently is pivoted at 93,300. And if we go to spot price action, it's actually already crossed down. In fact, as long as Bitcoin's below 95,250, 95,000-ish, let's say, is gonna be like a big line in the sand for me, because that would essentially confirm that Bitcoin is, if it can close above there, then hey, all bets are off. Get ready for, a likely move towards $100,000, I'd imagine. Anyways, on top of that, I should also yes, go over this, that daily BBWP representing volatility, also at levels that have traditionally marked major highs and major lows. Again, volatility is direction neutral, but for example, the last time we saw it within this region was essentially the swing high right here on that early March rally. The time before that we saw, this high was during this whole rally, got actually significantly higher. Then of course on this low over here, as well as this high over here, and so on and so forth. We don't need to go through all these damn iterations here, but again, typically that does insinuate that we're going to see, a bit of a contraction phase. Again, it's not necessarily bearish in and of itself, but a contraction phase after a nice explosive move to the upside would imply a bit of a pullback. Anyways, yes, so that is pretty much it for the bearish side. I mean, there probably are more things as well, but now I want to get into the bullish side because the way that things open up on this weekly, like I think the bullish side is actually a little bit stronger right now. In fact, I do believe that it is just straight up stronger. So first and foremost, maybe not foremost, but first we'll go over the 5-day HPDR. This one did reclaim the median for the first time since basically Bitcoin put in its all-time highs in late January, and that is significant. Now, as long as Bitcoin is above the median, which is about $91,000, especially on a closing basis, even a daily could manage this one. Theoretically, we should be expecting higher. And guess what? The next area of interest to the upside is a 38.2 level. That's actually a little bit above $100,000. It's $103,000, which sounds pretty crazy, but it's really not crazy within the context of historical returns. So what am I trying to say? As long as Bitcoin is again above this pivot, let's just call it $91,000. From this perspective, yes, upside is more likely. On top of that, we can see that the 5-day HPDRO is actually really starting to follow through into positive territory here, which is just generally a good sign. And on top of that, what else do we have? Yes, we have this one here too. We have the 5-day 5 EMA setup. I haven't brought this out in a while, and in fact, I completely missed the last entry that it fired off here at $83,500. But this one really fucking interesting to me because we have seen now 1, 2 working on bar number 3. And if we go into the strategy statistics for this, testing all the way back to 2017, and yes, I could test further back than that, but I just feel like the insane returns for Bitcoin during those early years, it just makes this data like unrelatable. But if we just go back to 2017 and look at the trade analysis tab, we can see that the average winning trade returned 40%, the average losing trade lost an average of 5.5%. But more importantly, and what I was just kind of getting on before I interrupted myself, was the average amount of bars in losing trades is 2. The average amount of bars in winning trades is 10. So we've already seen 1-2 bars happen since that entry. We're on bar number 3, and the more that the longer that this one goes onwards and forwards without closing below the 5 EMA, which is basically $90,000 right now. As the longer that goes on, the more and more likely this is going to be a winning trade, aka closer to that 10 bar range. Doesn't need to be exactly around there, but maybe somewhere around there. And of course, going off of the returns as well. I mean, if we were to add 40% to this entry here, where would that put Bitcoin? That would put Bitcoin kind of very close to my sort of maximum bull hopium case, which is about $118,000. And as long as Bitcoin is above that red 5 EMA, that is more likely than not, especially as time just kind of, transpires here. And I'll bring you back to the last mega signal that we saw from this strategy play out, which was back here in October of 2024. I'm sure if you were around on this channel during this time, I was being very, very loud about this, amongst other things as well, but this was a big portion of it. And this one fired off at 62,800 and closed all the way over here, well above $90,000. Of course, Bitcoin did trade higher than that. I wouldn't say that this is the best way to exit, but it is the only way that I can test it in like a very pure format. So my point is that all of Bitcoin's big long trending moves have essentially followed this strategy, the 5-day 5 EMA. When Bitcoin closes above, open along. When Bitcoin closes below, close that long. You saw these two major moves from the past couple of years also be caught within this strategy. And I mean, we could go back to prior cycles as well, but I won't bother you with the details of this. Anyways, of course, if it is going to be a losing trade, on average, we expect to lose about 5% or so. It's kind of hard to see that happen right now, just personally, but doesn't mean that it's impossible. Just a little bit harder to see it right now, because in order to even get a losing trade, Bitcoin would have to come down like 13% here. So it does seem less and less likely to me. So overall, this would also be supporting upside. And like I said, the upside case right now is, in my opinion, actually a little bit stronger, at least until we get into, May 1st, the first week, at least the first week of May. On top of that, if we do go over here, I want to reference this chart again. We were looking at the Tether dominance chart last week as getting towards a major relevant region, which was, of course, just this weekly, the weekly 55 and the weekly 21. And we're saying, hey, this one's going to have a little bit of a bounce. It did have a little bit of a bounce. Bitcoin came down from like 95 to 92, whatever it was. But already, this bounce is in jeopardy, and the higher term timeframes are very clear, and the long term is very clear on this one. It wants to come down. Tether dominance coming down is obviously going to be inversely proportional to most cryptos, namely Bitcoin. And on top of that, we're about to see hidden bearish divergence confirm on this. It's not confirmed just yet, to be fair, but in 2 days it will close. So that would be Wednesday night. And if it does close anywhere here or lower, especially like anywhere even around 5%, with a small margin of error, that gets confirmed. And, this thing, I think, takes the next major leg down. And could that be a catalyst for Bitcoin, rallying into the low 100s, maybe even making its way towards 120 to 125? Yeah, I think so. I mean, if we saw this thing come all the way down here, let's say, I'm not saying it's going to be a straight line. Okay. It's like, I have to be very careful with this. There's going to be bounces and turns along the way, just like we saw in the short term earlier, just over the past few days. But generally, I think it's going to come down somewhere around here. That's probably where you find whatever the next macro high is on Bitcoin. To be honest, it is what it is, man. But, Bitcoin can rally decently higher if it does come even close to this region here. So yeah, just be aware of that. It is still within a downtrend. And this is essentially my tiebreaker for today, at least for my personal opinion. My personal opinion here is going to be upside is generally more likely. However, if you want to play things a little more conservatively, or if I want to be a little more conservative in my own analysis as well, I'd want to see Bitcoin on spot price action close above basically last Friday's high, or CME close above, last Friday's high as well. If one of those, if one of those two things happens, it probably happens simultaneously, to be fair. But if one of those things happens, then yeah, I'd be looking for the HPDR to play out to the top side of the next range, somewhere around low 100s, somewhere around there. It doesn't necessarily have to happen all in one green dildo, but over a couple periods, 2-3 periods, which could be 10 to 15 days, that would be where I'm leaning towards. But yeah, again, it is honestly a difficult day for me, because 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, when Bitcoin was at $83,000 or so, I remember saying very, very specifically on this channel, when Bitcoin was, it was right here. It was right here. And I said, look, the next move is very likely to the upside. I highly doubt Bitcoin's going to be going lower than the April lows first before playing out some decent upside. And it has. And I said very specifically, it could probably go very easily to $93,000 to $95,000. And I know when it gets to that fucking point, I am going to second guess myself and think, oh shit, maybe this actually is bullish. Maybe it actually is just about to fucking green dildo its way to the heavens and beyond from here. And that's exactly how I feel right now, to be honest. And I just want to be honest with my feelings, because I know that other people deal with this as well. And it's a very common thing to deal with, but that's why we have rules, or that's why I have rules. Hopefully you have your own rules as well. And hopefully these videos can be of some value in formulating your own rules, if not for anything else. But yeah, if you want a line in the sand, it's going to be essentially 95,250 on a closing basis for a daily time frame, nothing less. If Bitcoin closed up there, yeah, let's just get ready for some upside. And then I think my downside fantasies probably they at least get nullified for a while. I mean, at that point, I kind of have to be looking for Bitcoin to retest highs, maybe make new highs, something like that. But one thing before the next. Anyways, I did go through a bunch of our different charts here. Let's also go through the price action pivots. You can see the price action pivots starting to switch into a bullish posturing yet again, coming off of the last 4-hour low at $93,000, meaning that if Bitcoin closes here or higher in the next 52 minutes and 10 seconds, just whatever the next 4-hour closure is, then this will switch around into, well, a presumed uptrend from the PA pivots, meaning that as long as Bitcoin is now above this pivot, expect upside. And there ain't really much difference between where price action is at right now and 95,250. Like, it's not asking for that much. So, things can switch around very, very quickly. Anyways, I've shown you a bunch of indicators today. I can also show you how to get them for free, at least for 30 days. You can try out the price action pivots indicator. You can try out, of course, the Quant Prime service, which is what I'm using to automate this back testing right here. Let me just go back here. Hey, damn it. Lost it. And then, of course, we went over the HPDR. All of these things are available for the first 30 days for free with the code TRIAL in all capitals. Very, very simple to do. There's no strings attached. You can jump on it. You can jump off as soon as you sign up. It's completely fine. That's what it's there for. We just want people to get the opportunity to get these tools in their hands. And hopefully, if you're smart, then perhaps you can make enough money to cover the whatever the subscription is for those if they do provide some value to you. Of course, I've completely forgot to go over the quantum wave bands. This trade continues to remain open. Very fucking bizarre. Very fucking bizarre. This one opened up at $93,000. Had a chance just a day later to close about $3,000 higher. Looks like it is going to reclaim some of that, at least right here. I'm currently trading about $1,600 from the entry. But as always, you can trade these how you want. You can look at them in the way that I look at them, as kind of like, calls to action to pay attention, because you have a probabilistic setup, but you don't necessarily have to play it out exactly like it's doing. Because like I said, look, if I was trading this one, I would have closed it somewhere around 95, most likely, even though it did get up nearly to 96. Anyways, that is where I'll shut things off for today. Enough shilling for one segment. And yeah, Bitcoin in kind of a precarious place. I do want to keep an open mind for both sides. And like I said, personally, I will be having the Friday high as being the sort of line in the sand for Bitcoin to close above, which would essentially make me say, hey, this thing is going to go to 6 digits and it's going to happen probably relatively fast. But until then, there are some good reasons to still be looking for a pullback. And yeah, Bitcoin could even pull back all the way down to 90 to 91,000 bucks. It doesn't really change anything as long as Bitcoin's above, let's just say 90. Below 90, that's when, okay, let's get ready for some actual fun to the downside. Likely a big move down to low 80s after that point. But anyways, I don't think that we have too much longer to wait for this one. Again, May is just right around the corner, and that's going to massively help out with formulating more long-term biases. And so I'll hold off on making any sort of claims on that until we get that, which is just a couple days away. And with all of that said, this video is way too fucking long. Apologies on that, but I'll be shutting it off at this moment. And I'd like to say thank you for joining in. As always, take care. Much love, and see you hopefully tomorrow for a nice live stream on YouTube.